Hello, YouTube. Little bit of a warning today. We have a thunderstorm situation going on above our heads. For those who have joined us in the past, know how problematic that can be for us because of internet usage. Up here is going to be our TikTok audience. You guys are the first ones in. We're going to be going live on TikTok. TikTok, just as a heads up, it can be ran off cellular. So because it can be ran off of cellular, we can go live and stay live. Oh, crap. Sorry. They put me into created an event, which is not what I wanted to do. Okay, we have this set for 6:30. So we always come on a little earlier here. This is like a pre-show. That's ready to go. I wanted to say hi to everybody. You guys are really close. I tried a different angle today. I'm not sure I like it necessarily yet. Usually you guys are out a little bit more. And I'll show you what I mean if you give me a second. So we can reset it. I wanted to see if this looked any better, but I really don't think it does look too much better. See, that's what you normally see. Oh, thank you, Rachel. I'm just going to quickly turn off my camera because I want to adjust something. And I don't want you guys just looking at my chest while I'm moving things around. It look a bit awkward. So we're just going to quickly move some things. And it should make the studio a little more presentable for this evening, which is what we want. All right, let's see what happens when we turn the lights on again. I think that's a better kind of view. I'll bring this over a little bit. You can still see our puddles. There we go. I think this is much better. There we go. And I get air conditioning right here. And the air conditioning kicks on. All right, so we're going to be going live on TikTok. For those who don't know, on TikTok, we now have the ability to have playlists. Those playlists can be seen in our TikTok, the very bottom of it, on our channel's bottom. You can see it. And let me see if I can't call it up for you guys to take a look at really quickly. Yes, I have heard, by the way, a lot of people have been trying to let me know about what's going on with the sale of TikTok. And while nothing official has been said, I'm not surprised to hear that there would be a sale at all. So let me bring this up for you guys. I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. Oops. Should have just taken a screenshot of it. You don't need a stat. We can have a static one, but we're going to share a screen. There we go. There we go. And that's what we're talking about here. I'll blow it all the way up. So you notice how where it says playlist and it says consent? Yep, that is our consent playlist. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in. Again, I'm just going to give the warning again. Today there's a thunderstorm. I'm hoping my co-host shows up. So just in case I get kicked off, they can keep it running until I can get in here. Okay. So yeah, you guys can see it right here. See how it says, does it blow? Yeah, it blows up. So videos, so consent. Let me see if I can get lower. There we go. BDSM 101. There, we got so many more. If you hit here, there's some more. So tonight's topic, by the way, if you don't know, you stumbled in, is submission a gift? You guys can go ahead and start writing questions immediately. We are 10 minutes out at this particular moment. There is a thunderstorm above my head, which is making me nervous. But, I mean, that's why I hate scheduling things sometimes. Kind of in the first thing in the morning, let's make the call type of person. But it doesn't look that good of a wave on here. So I'm wondering if today's the day I should have the fan on. I feel like it's going to be warm after the thunderstorm. That's just a Swiffer. I'll clean up after I go today. I got my fan right next to me. The joke's always it's my biggest fans. All right. Ooh, that's actually got me being a little cold. I like it. I'm going to face it down a little bit. Give me some air moving around. Just the cold air is on the bottom of the floor. You point your fan down, pops it up. 10 minutes until we can go live. We're live on our channel. Okay. Looks like we're ready to go. Kicking the tires, lighting the fires. All right. We expect Alice any moment. So what do you guys got for me? Any questions before the class? Anything you guys want to know? I'm going to start. I'm thinking about keeping this as a pre-show and an after show exclusively on YouTube. So pretty easy to find us, I think, on YouTube. Just hit the YouTube. Let me put myself full screen real quick. I'm going to check right now live, but I don't want anything popping up that, well, it's YouTube. YouTube sees what I'm doing. Screw 'em. Right? So this is YouTube. Oh, it doesn't have me signed in. I wonder where that, oh, my power went off of my thing. All right, so bear with me 1 second. I'm going to call it up. I don't know what the sign-ins, if it'll show my password. Sometimes it does. Nope. And you guys can actually see some of the stuff that I look at. So here we go. There we go. This is kind of the stuff behind me. Trad wife and day caller. The trad wife to kink pipeline. It continues, my friends. It continues. Let's view our channel here. There you go. Tonight is, as you see, we're live. We now looking at 63 subscribers, 41 videos. We almost have a video for every person who has subscribed, which I think is a pretty good thing. 7/9. Today is 7/9, right? Yep, 6:30 p.m. We should be able to go live soon. There it goes. All right. So we're just minutes away from going live. All right. So I hate when you sort of feel tired and you're worried it's going to ruin the rest of your night. Let's see if we've gotten any. Evie Lupine's apparently made it to 10 years in the lifestyle. Okay. So, how you guys doing? Shaw, what did you mean by my? My what? It's actually kind of cool the way that comes between the in between. Sometimes I like how the videos naturally set a page. It is a good looking page. Will it show the bigger picture? I don't think so. No, it just takes us to Creator Studio. All right. Well, we're going to put this to bed. Let me remove that. Definitely not used to YouTube. Ah, yeah, it's not hard. Honestly, I like YouTube better for a lot of things than I even like TikTok. But TikTok does not. I mean, it does not come close to what TikTok has as far as reach. YouTube's never built its own community. It's tried. It did well with its own version of Reels. For those who don't remember, about 8 years ago, YouTube got really pissed because it turned out there were people using bots to basically make a lot of money off of TikTok. And it turned out it was fraudulent. And YouTube lost money. And during that time period, we happened to be doing a show on a different channel called, at the time, I believe it was Kickstarter uh, Pause. And it was basically the idea that people would stop their we'd have guests on, they'd stop the Kickstarter, but everyone kept using. Yeah, you can't go more in depth. I don't have to worry about words here, and that's what I like about it. That's why I like having our pre-show and our after show here now, as opposed to TikTok where we constantly are getting in trouble. We're on a shadow ban now, and I'll be damned if I know why, but so be it. And remember, if I suddenly disappear, not my fault. It's probably lightning got something again. Um, Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so we had all these guys were, and they were all guy creators for the most part. Were using copyrighted music, and YouTube got so mad at me they stripped us of being able to go live for a year, and took away all of our audience. They set us back to zero, and they didn't terminate the channel, but it was a 1 year like ban. I even talked to them and I explained what was going on. And I think during that conversation, they kind of admitted they might have overreacted, but they were just being very careful about it and pointed out I must have missed or did not notice. And this is something I'm still bad at to this day, notifications that were warning me about it. So, I mean, we got in deep trouble for that one. We lost a lot on that one. But what are you going to do? Oh, that's probably because Rachel, I can tell you, and then we're going to go live up top over on TikTok. That actually has to probably do with, believe it or not, the audience controls. I'm 18 plus only, and for some reason, people have trouble seeing it until you verify you're 18 plus on the browser. It's weird. It is certainly weird. All right, so let's kick the tires and get ready to go live. Pre-flight. We're going to open up our TikTok. And I guess I could let you guys watch the TikTok. What do you guys think? Maybe we should just put the TikTok on the screen so you guys can see the comments that we're talking about as well. So let me see. Hold on. All right. All right. Thought I was about to screw something up. All right, here we go. Yeah, I had to verify my phone. Yeah. So that might be the issue. All right. So we're going to, I think I'm on Anderson now. Let me try to pull up a Kink one. Let's see. So if I'm not signed in, we can never get the live. All right, good. So I'm going to share that screen. Alice is joining us. Alice, I was warning everybody that I might disappear here. It'll kick over seamlessly on TikTok. We are having a massive storm above our head for the next 45 minutes.
Oh no.
That's why I hate scheduling things. That's even why I said, like, towards the end of July, I might not just schedule shows like this because the storms are always this time of day, and we really can't do this any earlier in the day, and it'd be a waste later in the day. This is the spot, and either we're going to go here or we're not going to go at all. So we'll take next week off definitely because this is the worst time of the year for these types of storms. I don't know why, but there's a big shift. Come August. The storms are in the
Hmm.
morning. I don't know why, but the storms are in the morning in August. No
Yeah.
reason, fans or bits about it. I think it's because the Atlantic and the Gulf of whatever it is heat up. We are live right now. We're Shaw says I can help if you need. I don't know how you could help keep the thing running, but if I do get kicked off, Alice, StreamYard usually will run even without the host for about 20-25 minutes.
Okay.
You won't have much control, but I should be able to get back in because at worst case, I could always kick off of uh, my phone. I could end the. Well, no, I could probably do it at the same time. Try to hook up my computer to go off the Wi-Fi on the phone. Let's keep our fingers crossed and introduce our TikTok audience. We'll introduce ourselves, and then we got an interesting pet for tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited for tonight's conversation.
I think it's just going to get me in more trouble, but I live in trouble. So what are you going to do?
I like having controversial topics because then people have a controversial conversation about important things.
Yeah. So let's do it. Here we go. TikTok audience en route. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, my shirt looks like Weird Al Yankovic's shirt. It's Goguru. Or Gogu. I always say his name wrong. The Yoda child, the Yoda baby. We're live talking about where the actual power in Power Exchange comes from. So I'm joined as always by Alice for this exciting adventure we're on tonight. Alice, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Wandering Alice. I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight. Find me on a lot of these Wednesday night conversations with Mr. Anderson.
You know, it's funny, we've done so many of this tonight. I had to stop and look. I knew we had a program, I just didn't know the label it was going under. Tonight is a pet experience, Power Exchange Together, brought to us by BeyondLeather.net. This is their program that they're allowing us to expand onto the internet. How cool is that? I'm pretty excited, pretty stoked. We already had a pre-show on the YouTube. You guys got to join us over on YouTube for pre-show and after show. We're moving all of those pre-shows and after shows directly onto YouTube. And one of the biggest reasons we're doing it, and Alice and me realized this last time, we can be more free with what we want to talk about. So we got to put on our announcer jackets, we have to play the news reporters or the 60 minutes here, but then we get to play any minutes we want on YouTube. YouTube gives us a lot more freedom. Again, that profile is set to adults only, so we don't have to worry as much. All the videos that come out of my social footprint, for the most part, go directly to 18 plus. So I don't want to spend much more time talking about the stuff. I just wanted you all to know that you can find us on YouTube after this event and ask us deeper questions. So here we go, Alice. We'll bring up the TikTok. Do you wanna set us off? So we're doing Power Exchange Together. What's the power? Where does the power come from?
Ooh. So the power comes from the energy you put in to build something together. That is my opinion. The power is behind the energy you work on building it together. But as you alluded to in the subject, a lot of people do fall in line with the submissive has all the power, and that's something I was even taught early on in my king journey. Um, I now, as I've become more experienced on it, I can see where that line comes from, but it feels slightly like a false security, a false statement a little bit.
Sorry about the feedback there for a few minutes. We're setting up the TikTok thing, and for some reason, my computer is just in a mood not to cooperate. But you're absolutely right. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. And as you know, for a long time, I have taught, and I've always taught this to be a teaching tool. And until recently, and I have been made aware, I'm a kind of a steamroller when I get in my own neurodivergent mind that I'm right, that submission was a gift. Now, the reason I called it a gift was because I truly believed that you were giving submission to someone. And I even went as far as to say the sub gifts the submission, and it's a gift that can be taken back at any point, and it's a gift that can expire, just like tickets to a game. You get to go to the game. When the game's over, the gift is over. And I said that dominance was a reward for submission. However, it's not perfect. It's not a great teaching tool. As Alice was just saying, there's more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, well, and especially if you get into more gray areas of folks who are a switch, like myself, where those things start to get kind of blurry. Um, and there's a lot more to it in the fact of, yeah, submission is a gift, but you can't only have the submission if you have a dominant counterpart to that. They kind of have to go hand in hand to some degree.
Yeah, I agree. Trying to figure out how to put this up on the screen. There we go. We'll look at it when we have some comments. But no, I mean it's difficult. I think sometimes because you want to have this great dynamic with a person, of course, right? I mean, like no duh, you want it to be as great as it can be, and you want it to feel like it's something very powerful. But when we are talking about the power, a lot gets lost because, and here's the big argument: how much power does the dominant have? Is the super, I mean, is the submissive? I'm going to say superhero. I got Superman on the line coming out soon. Is the submissive the one who holds the most power in the dynamic? And I know Alice doesn't exactly agree with me on this one. It's not hard things, but let's see what Alice says, and then I'll explain my side.
So the main submissives hold a lot of power in a dynamic. I do agree with that. But I think saying they hold all of it is kind of a false narrative. It kind of for two reasons. Um, the dominant can also they can also call red. They can also redact their consent to something. And to say the submissive has all the power almost kind of leans to the fact, well, then the dominant just has to go along with whatever the submissive wants. Again, that's part of why the submissive has all the power came out, because it's so important that submissives know they too also have a decision and a choice to make. This decision, this choice is done typically during negotiation, where you set out the rules for your dynamic, the rituals, the guidelines, whatever you want to call it. You do that during negotiation, but you still at all times, if you did it safely and you did it in what I personally consider properly, have your safe words available for you to take back that consent, ergo, take back that power. But that's both sides.
I guess a good thing would be to just pause here and explain. Um, I'll teach it, and you can tell me if I miss anything. The best way to obtain consent, and for me, that's using diaper. Did I ask permission? Extensive representation. You guys have seen it. I should have had the slide ready to throw up on the screen today, but basically, it's just about asking permission for anything and everything you do to a person, to a thing. But it goes to be the diaper, the ER extensively is your play profile. It's your risk profile. It is aftercare and pre-care needs and how you're going to handle that. It's safety. It is all of the things you're going to do in the middle of a scene to stop it if something goes right or goes wrong, and the right way to handle it. And we're talking about the red light, green light system. We're even talking about the minutia of things. And I don't like minutia in consent, but there's minutia in play. That's why we have the new acronym: needs, expectations, and wants. There's a lot of thought, a lot of what we're going into to get consent. It's not simple at all. I think I covered it all. Did I miss anything that we got to throw out there just so we have this base that we can build off of?
I feel like for me, I feel like you covered most of it, and I'm not seeing any real questions or comments on it, but
Now, one of the things we didn't. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but I think it's also just important, like, tonight's conversation isn't about going over how to negotiate and all of that in detail. We have other, like, 101 discussions where we do go into that kind of detail.
But we just wanted to touch on it. Medical is one that I know I missed, and thank you for Vineyard over on TikTok. He reminded me when he says where you can touch, where you can't touch, any possible triggers are great things. And tonight's not about consent. Well, that's the idea. So there's this intensive process before we even get to it. The reason I've always thought that the submissive starts with all the power, and this is where it becomes the exchange, is I look at the exchange as empowering something. I've used the bus metaphor. So the scene is the bus, right? The submissive becomes the fuel for the bus, the dominant becomes the driver of the bus. And some people are like that. Some people, again, found it confusing. So I'm going to try to just baseline it for you all and see it where we can build from here. The submissive, in my opinion, is the gatekeeper, for lack of a better term, of whether or not you're going to have a scene. Alice is right that the top should have the same consent, shouldn't have anything violated, but 90% of the time the top is in control. Their consent can't be violated generally because they're in control and they can stop anything in a second. It's not the concern it is for the submissive, who you could be bound and unable to stop anything. So I think that's where I get the idea that the submissive in my head, and it wasn't something that came on my own. I've heard many people teach it this way too, and it's a great teaching tool to say the submissive is basically the goalie. They allow things to go past or they stop things to go past. And that's their consent. They get to goal keep what goes in the net. We now have blanket consent and things like that. So, there are many ways to track consent, but without a submissive saying yes, there is no play. And I've always made the argument, well, a submissive can play with themselves and have a scene, a dom can't. And that's why I feel like all the power comes from a submissive. However, that doesn't mean that a dominant is completely powerless, because once a submissive gives them the power and it starts the exchange, that empowers the dominant to share with them skill. And skill is a power set, especially in this lifestyle. So I think the power is consent that starts the scene. And that's why I always said submission's a gift, dominance is a reward for submission. And I know a lot of people get really upset at this, enough so that I wanted to stop and really have this talk. Anyone can join us on this conversation in the chats and all that. So I know me and Alice don't meet 100% in this perspective. I just put out my case. Let's see how Alice can pick it apart. Maybe we can find a better way to teach it.
Well, and that's what's so hard about the subject for me, because a lot of what you said, I do agree with as well. Like, it's very true. I am somebody who does understand and can see value in what a lot of people call cell phone submission, that kind of thing. That's a conversation for a different time. But you're completely right in the fact that a sub can play with themselves. They can kind of submit to themselves, so to speak. You really can't have a dominant do that without the counterpart. So in that sense, yes, it could be considered a gift, but kind of like you were alluding to a little bit, to me, typically, if I get a gift, like just a physical happy birthday gift, and it requires me to put in work or spend extra money, I don't really consider it a gift anymore. Right? And so that's where, for me, I feel like treating submission just as a gift doesn't allude to the fact that the dominant has a lot of work to do still, because this is where more of the whole Spider-Man Peter Parker with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the submissive hits kind of the go button after negotiation and starting the scene. Both sides come together. They've handed over that power, that negotiated power exchange, whether it's for a short time or for a long time, to their dominant. And that's taking on a lot of responsibility. So yeah, the play is a little bit of a reward, but you can't ignore the level of responsibility that's coming with having someone in that level of your care.
Now, M, who couldn't be here today, wanted to be here, family obligations, wanted me to point this out, and it was really good because a lot of times before I even come to these shows, I get beat up by M in the background, and they tell me why I'm getting it wrong a lot of times, and I truly appreciate having someone smarter than me in my life. And you think I'm joking? No, I find intelligence very attractive, to be honest. So what they said to me is it's not really as much as a gift as it's something that is earned. Submission has to be earned. But how do I make that teachable? Let's be honest, a lot of the things we're doing, we're trying to make sure someone can remember. You can tell people till you're blue in the face, don't do something without permission. It just goes over their head and they do it. But if I tell you to use diaper, you're going to get shit all over yourself, contain the shit using diaper, people kind of remember that. So that's why I think the gift of submission worked really well as a teaching tool. But I do see it. It's the whole time I've had this argument. This argument's now years old for me. I do hear and Alice knows this from we've talked about this before. Sometimes we're teaching something and we do hear you, but this is just the best way to teach it. You might be a little more advanced in the class. You might do the thing we're telling you not to do, not realizing the reason we're telling you not to do it is simply because we don't want people who aren't ready to do it, like CNC. We don't like talking about CNC in a positive light. Doesn't mean me or Alice in our own lives may or may not actually do CNC in our own lives, right?
Oh, exactly. There's plenty of activities that I do in my own life that I do not talk about in these conversations and stuff because they are like 301 level things. And given how exposed these conversations are by design, we need to keep it at the 101 level. And that's what I'm liking about the pet conversations is we are getting a little more advanced because at initial conversation, you meet somebody who's new to the lifestyle, maybe kind of in a mentor-mentoree type way. It's not a bad conversation to start with them that if somebody is gifting you their submission, you need to treasure that and treat that as something precious because you always should. But as you're going through your mentorship with this newly minted, or newly growing Dom, you slowly expand on that conversation as well. Because even with the dominances of reward, yeah, if you've put in all of the work on yourself to learn a skill set, you've done all of the effort to find someone you're compatible with, vet them for yourself and get vetted by them, and go through negotiation, you finally get to the placing. Yeah, it's gonna feel like a reward, definitely.
Yeah. And we have some comments. So we're gonna take a
Mhm.
mindful moment to do some comments. I have no idea why the screen won't show. Come on, add to stage. It's just one of those days where it's not listening. But let me. Oh, I know why it's not showing. That's my fault. Here we go. Nope, it's still not showing. I'm not sure why. I'll just read them. Here we go. Joseph White says, "As a dom in HOH." I don't know what that meant. Do you have context clues for me on that one?
All I can think of is like head of house, like a leather thing, kind of head of house.
Oh, okay.
That's a complete and utter guess, but that's the only way that those three letters come together in my brain.
No, that would make sense. Again, on this channel, it's not that we hate leather; we just don't teach leather. So a lot of times we won't really touch on it because that's like a whole different shark, right? Like we
Yeah, it's its own subcategory, basically, of kink.
and in our YouTube we had some questions. I think power exchange can be from both, said Shaw. And what do you think should be available if someone denies aftercare? I personally would not play with anyone who does not give aftercare. That is how serious aftercare is to me. However, I will say this: just because aftercare is needed doesn't mean you get to dictate all of aftercare. If someone's not a cuddler, you have to respect. Well, they're not a cuddler, so you have to kind of work with them. If they're not a cuddler, you could ask them to sit on a couch. And if someone says, "I don't feel comfortable sitting on a couch," they're just using you as a plastic piece. I'm sorry. I'm actually not sorry. That's just how I feel. You have any thoughts on that, Alice?
No, if somebody flat out says they don't do aftercare, to me it's a scene killer, dynamic killer. We're done. Like it's a no go for me. Dead on arrival, basically. But like you said, just because somebody says they do aftercare doesn't mean they have to do everything, check every box on your aftercare bucket list, so to speak, and vice versa.
Yeah. As a sapiosexual love learning, says Tiki Tiki Kimmy. And Joseph Weiss said that they're here to listen and learn. Yeah, we don't do head of household. And that really wouldn't fit our conversation exactly tonight, because head of household would be not
It's a
really, you know what I mean? That's kind of a leather thing, and the way power exchange works in leather is completely different.
Yeah, it's a very different structure than what we're kind of going into.
Apples and oranges, my friend. Apples and oranges. We're going to stick to the kink side of things, which is, I guess, the orange.
I
Maybe
don't know.
either way, we're gonna stick with the fruit that we are and be happy with it. I do want to say that I do think we want to move a little bit more towards maybe calling it a reward, an award, maybe like submission is. I mean, submission is earned is a good one.
That I've always gone with submission is earned. Um, I So dominance is earned, but that's more for the dominance. Like them getting to be dominant is earned, but also submission is earned, right? To me, the submissive is earned by building that trust with that other person. You have put in the work, you have earned their trust. Where dominance is earned very much in that you've put the energy into learning your skill set,
Yeah, I can
right?
see that.
Um, to me, I think that's something really important. I find that is I can always find submissives to play with. I struggle to find dominance of caliber to play with. And that's not saying that the submissives I play with don't meet my standards that I personally have for people I play with. That's not the case at all. It's just I can help instruct submissives and educate them to get them informed. It's really hard to, from the bottom, teach somebody how to use an impact toy just so. Um, so there's a lot of work on that, which is why it can sometimes be hard to find people that will, check all your requirements for play partners.
Absolutely. I don't think my screen is set right. I'm trying to get some of our TikTok audience to join us over here. And one of the reasons you guys are going to see us kind of talking about joining YouTube is we also want to build this channel as a backup because of September looming. We don't know what's going on with TikTok yet. So we want to have this second avenue. So feel free to
Mm-hmm.
join us here. While you were saying all that, and I was listening and dealing with some stuff, I came up with this. Tell me if you like it. Submission is earned through informed consent and negotiation.
Yeah.
I think it's not as catchy as submission as a gift because that's so quick, but this is more
Mm-hmm.
thoughtful. And sometimes our lifestyle deserves something more thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, and this is coming to the people who want to cosplay as kinky. Okay, those are the kind of folks I'm talking about. I'm not talking about newbies who just haven't learned better yet. I'm really talking about the people who want to cosplay as kinky to get access to adult interaction. They hear that submission is a gift, and they now think that just by saying they're a dom, they're entitled to a submissive.
Mm-hmm.
And it irks me to no end when people do that. And that's why I'm almost not a huge fan of using the submission as a gift, because it's really not. It is an earned thing. No one is entitled to any other person for any other reason.
And I think a lot that kind of struck a chord with me has been the argument. Like I can defend it up until, and I can even to defend the gifts you don't give back, but gifts can expire. Like I'm a clever person and I am great at debating, but there's a moment when you're trying so hard to prove something, right? That you suddenly realize, well, why am I working this hard? Right? Like this feels like too much work.
Mm-hmm.
well, why would I need this to be this much work? So instead, you suddenly realize, well, maybe let me take a step back. Let me breathe. Let me figure this out. And we have come to this point where submission is a gift sounds great on a bumper sticker, but in a lifestyle that we are continuously being flooded by vanilla people who hear one thing and go 2 miles with it. You know what I mean? Like they try to get so much.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts in our kinky culture, so to speak, that we've had is the level of the accessibility that the internet has brought to kinky, not
Discussions.
really want to say like access to kink basically in our terms and stuff has almost made it so we can't use these quick one-offs, because even when I joined, it was at least a little more niche for a little bit before that that book that shall not be named kind of brought in the flood, where a lot of times you would have these in-depth conversations about the catchphrase of like submission is a gift, and you would understand the nuance that actually goes behind that very simple statement. Well, now that simple statement's just being thrown out to the winds of the internet, and it's being extrapolated wrong, incorrectly. It's being taken and basically used as leverage for manipulation and abuse.
Or just misunderstanding, which can be 10 times more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Because when someone's not getting it, they're empowered today. Perfect example. Over on our Kink Advocate channel, someone said that we have to worry about equity in play. And I'm like, no, we don't do equity in BDSM. It's a power exchange that's inequity. You can't, there's no balance there. And I told him, I was like, we don't have equity in this, because they were talking about, well, what about, someone's a boss and all that. I'm like, that's not in this lifestyle. We negotiate and we figure out who's going to play, what position, basically, right?
Yeah.
And instead of listening and taking a moment from someone else, this person then twists it into something weird and adds the fact that I said it's okay to use alcohol to get someone to submit. And anyone who's watched 5 minutes of my content will be like,
You've never said that.
that's not him at all. But it's just how the new breed is. They're all chasing, and I'm going on our official second year. I think it's our second full year. We're going into our third year, and in that time, the stupid fights of people who won't listen, only to see them come back a year later. And I am happy at the people who come back and go, you know what, I didn't see it yet. Because there is this thing, and a lot of new people don't get this, and I didn't get it at the beginning. It seems so simple until you see people take advantage of this lifestyle. It's
Mm-hmm.
so basic until someone did something that twists it. And then suddenly you realize why we say, though, the people who've been around for a longer amount of time, we go, hey, slow down. It doesn't work that simple. Oh, it should. Hey, I agree, but it doesn't. And in an educator role, you have to be so much clearer. That's why we always talk about speaking the same language. And that's what tonight is about, speaking the same language. How can we teach something that can't be bent? Like, oh, submission is a gift. Oh, it's wonderful. And then you have the person on the other side. Well, you gave this to me, so it's mine now, right?
Yeah. Like, and all of these are things that I know, like, I've witnessed these. Now, we met through TikTok. Before, what was it, end of last year, had no idea who the other person was in this plane of existence. And we have both witnessed these situations happen. They're not unique. And that's really sad and that's really scary, but that's also why it's so important to teach things certain way, because the same patterns repeat. And once you've been around long enough, you will start picking up on these patterns. You'll kind of understand some of why we're very cautious or very specific on how we word things.
Yeah, and we're going to do some more comments. Shaw says, that sounds good. It's a little more in depth, referring to our new thing that we're probably going to wind up, because I wanted to come out of this with the new teaching tool. So, submission is earned through negotiation and informed consent. So,
Yeah.
and again, informed, comma, consent, not a one word thing, not a hyphen thing. Informed before you get consent. So it's submission is earned through negotiation, comma, informed or informative for this sentence, informative consent. Well, informed consent we'll keep with the comma. But that's basically it. It doesn't roll off as good as submission is a gift, and it doesn't empower submission as much as it does there, but it is something so important, and that's where the consent comes in. You have to consent to it. So once again, we're trying to move to making consent, one word, more powerful as always. Wallflower said aftercare comes in many ways and I think should be discussed beforehand. I think I cover that all the time when I talk about diaper, that it has to be in your pre-negotiation before consent. Wouldn't you agree, Al? I think you do agree. I've heard you say that.
Oh yeah. Well, we've had this discussion before where we did go a little bit more in depth into what needs to be negotiated and immediate and aftercare, which for me means immediately after the scene has ended, and then what I call the post scene period, which you have sometimes called aftercare as well, which is the next, 1 day to week long of check-ins and so on someone might need. Yeah, that should all be discussed along with many other things before you're ever consenting to an actual scene.
And in fairness, the reason I bunched the two together, I do understand why you teach it slightly different. There's nothing wrong with that. I am so used to the KISS method. And those of you who don't know, the KISS method is keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And I have professionally had to talk to hundreds of people, educate hundreds. This is not an exaggeration. I have educated hundreds of people in my lifetime. The more you throw at them, the more confused, the lazier they can get with it. If aftercare has all these steps, then they understand that. But if it's aftercare and then it's post care and it's pre care, it becomes way too much for them. So I like to teach it as aftercare is what you negotiate for before the scene, during the scene, because even during the scene, I would say there's some care. It's not necessarily aftercare, but you're taking the check-ins that would go along with, to me, care. And it's one of those things I wish I could almost call it a care section, but you want to put emphasis on aftercare. So aftercare has to start before the scene because you want to get them to the point where you can hold them and bring them back down and then check on them. So that's kind of why I do it. Again, there's so much nuance in this lifestyle. It's not
Mm-hmm.
easy to teach in 5 seconds, which was the biggest mistake I made when I first got to TikTok. We've talked about this, Alice. It was 60 seconds was like the big thing. Like TikTok used to be a lot shorter format. Not everyone got the 3-minute videos. I remember getting the 3-minute videos and being like, wow, I can take my time now. I don't have to rush through it. And at the time, they were encouraging 15-second videos, 1-minute videos. When I started being able to have the 3-minute videos, we started cooking. When I got to 10 and we could talk about it, I was running out of time before I was done talking about it. And I think a lot of people come to these videos, watch one video, and think they're ready. I feel like showing up to one day of college and being like, okay, give me my degree. If you have that mentality, I can't help you because you have no understanding, nor do you want to, about how much actually goes into this lifestyle.
Yeah. And I do think that's why, unfortunately, with TikTok coming up and being a thing as much, I do feel like that's why, kind of, to me, it's gotten so much worse during the TikTok time, is because everybody feels that 60-second clips is enough to go do these things.
Yeah, I hated it when we were limited to 60. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we can put this 1 hour program and we're watching the time to make sure this stays 1 hour so we can have the bigger discussions with everyone. They could see the full thing, not edited out of context. Because most people, what they do on here is they take a clip and then they try to make themselves sound right. There was something the other day I had with someone where they turned around in the middle of talking about trad wives, started to bring up our lifestyle, and then said, well, this group, meaning the kink group, shouldn't be on the internet, shouldn't be showing anything about themselves in public. And I was like, well, that got really fucked fast, didn't it? Like,
Yeah.
why can't we be out? And it was like, back in the dungeon with all of you. This is why they're trad wives now. And we're going to have a conversation with that person. And they did know that the person did say that they saw some of the things that they did wrong because the person in the video was supposed to have been one of us. But that doesn't mean we don't see kink shaming
Well,
from.
and that's where it's like, guys, you're on the internet. Just because somebody says that they're a purple people eater, you're able to use your brain and think, are they actually a purple people eater? Like, be critical when you're thinking here. Just because somebody says they're a kinkster or feels they have the authority to talk on behalf of all kinksters, maybe don't always take that at face value, especially the second part. There is no king or queen of the kinksters. There's no one person who speaks for all of us. So
Not
be
even me.
cognizant of that.
Not even me. I don't try to. I'm an educator. Anyone's allowed to come challenge me. I've never ran from it. What I don't deal with is abuse. If you
Yeah.
lie about things I said, no, we're done. We're
Yeah.
done. Too many times I've given people a benefit of a doubt they didn't deserve. And I'm not a person who has a lot of patience. That's why I
Yeah.
never became a doctor. Rachel
So,
said, go
yeah,
ahead.
I wanted to highlight Rachel's comment because I thought it was a really good one, too.
Go.
So Rachel says people at times forget that power exchange isn't an instant gratification process. It's a continuous journey with constant give and take moments, constant maintenance. I fully agree. Like, and I think to me, I think that is also part of why, with like us talking about how people are taking things and not getting the full extrapolation behind it, they're taking it at shorthand. And the idea that submission is a gift gives it that quick and easy access type feel, when like Rachel illustrated, it is not. It is a, if you're doing a dynamic, a full-blown dynamic, which is what we're talking about and with Pet, not just a scene, that is a lot of work, and it is going to take tweaking for the entirety of that dynamic's existence.
Well, it's like a mutual fund. To use a finance as a thing, it's about growth.
Mm-hmm.
You're investing in a dynamic, and that's why you don't hear kink couples talking about spicing up their that part of their life. Whether, no matter how you frame it, I always frame it as expressing themselves in a what's the word, intimate way. um, it's not sexual for everyone. BDSM is not inherently sexual. We say that all the time here. But I will say that a lot of people in the vanilla world, you know, they have like five moves, and those five moves of doom are done over a 3 month period. While in kink, we kind of keep building. The closer we get, the more we trust each other. And I think that's what a healthy dynamics grow over time. Like, it gets ridiculous how close you come to someone. And to kind of put it in a funny but realistic way, it's the shit we survive together, even though we're doing it with each other and a lot of times to each other, that brings us closer.
I think that's such a true statement, though, because like there, when I did do a lot more pickup play, which I really don't engage in now, just not my thing at this time, there was a whole set of things that were not, they were hard limits for people I played with. And, but there are things that in my, with my nesting partner of almost a decade, they are all but blanket consent activities for them. And it's literally through that growing trust of like, oh, when something went wrong, when they screwed up and they handled it well.
And submissive scrub too, don't forget. And I'm not talking to Alice, I'm talking to all you watching. I know Alice knows this. Not telling us when something feels numb because you think we're going to be disappointed. Disappoint us. We'd rather be disappointed in the second for us to recalibrate and go, I'm not disappointed. I'm proud that they said something to me.
Mm-hmm.
Versus having to sit in a hospital waiting room with you for an hour to find you have elbow drop or, God forbid, something worse. Please let us know when something's going on. Don't impress us. You already do. We showed up. You've impressed us.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times goes into social pressure with pickup play when you go to a dungeon in a space. So misses aren't told enough, hey, slow down. And I've seen this in front of my own eyes. Oh, that's that guy. He does all this. Everyone says he's great. 6 months later, oh my God, he was touching everyone inappropriately. But not everyone, only the 10th consumer, the 10th person that they've always wanted to, because for whatever reason, this person did it for them. So this person is now going to be ignored when it comes to consent. I saw a situation where someone was problematic, told a group that I had heard they were problematic, didn't have proof yet. You know, when you don't have proof, but and watched
Mm-hmm.
leaves someone up in the air after they said it's tingling, I need to come down, I'm dead serious. The words were, "Oh, they can stay up another 5 or 10 minutes. It's not serious." My response to that person was, "Okay, you have a choice now. I can cut your ropes and get them out real quick, or you can take them down. For now." And I showed him the scissor. I had the scissor literally in my hand because they're all obsessed with their fucking ropes. So let me tell you, I will cut a rope in a heartbeat if a person needs me to. And everyone's like, "Well, if you panic and cut a rope, what if they drop?" I'm big enough to grab them, and they are not dropping. I am just cutting them out quickly because I do know the load bearing ropes, and it takes seconds to cut them off. And then the rest of the ropes will fall off a person. The reason a lot of people shouldn't do that is you have to be ultra strong to do it because you can hurt someone. But I'm not in that position. So as a teacher, don't listen to what I just said and know your ropes and bring them down safely. But in that moment, I know who I am. I know what I could do, and I knew I could take this person straight out of the air and not even have a problem. I do want to get to some comments. I feel like we're getting off topic a little bit. I wanted to just ask,
Mhm.
do you think we missed anything with this conversation?
Hold on. Dominant word. I mean, unless somebody has a comment or something, I'm not really sure where else to go with it is really the issue here. We are getting some comments. Some of them are directly on topic. Some of them, as it happens, are not so focused on the actual question for tonight, and that's okay. But
Well, we have
there's so much nuance to this. You could still find 8 other ways to talk about it.
So we have 18 minutes left on TikTok. So I do want to get to wrapping this up. So let's do the
Mm-hmm.
comments now from the, because I don't feel like I have anything to add. I think that I will switch to, again, the new thing that I want to do. Submission is earned through negotiation and informed consent.
Ooh, dominance is a privilege. That one just popped in my head. And what I mean by privilege is you have earned the right to be dominant and you've put in the work to be skilled enough to be it. You've earned the privilege of being able to be a dominant.
But so you don't mean that it's a privilege to be dominated. You mean being a dominant is
Is a privilege.
being
Yes.
considered a dominant.
Yeah. Being given the title, whatever you want to call it, it is a privilege.
And far too many people self-diagnose what they are. Like the master thing. I always said I would never call myself a master unless I had mastered my partner. When I master their body, I know how to manipulate. Manipulate's not always a bad word, kids. If it's consensually manipulated, everything I do, manipulating means just to make them feel a certain way, like
Yeah.
massaging. We're manipulating the back. We don't have much better words. If someone has a better word, like a fancier one from the dictionary than manipulated, I'm all about it. Let me know in the comments.
Well,
Let's.
I'd also like to say we need to stop just assuming certain words are bad because currently in our society they're being told that they're bad, like gatekeeping, manipulation.
Yeah.
They're just words. The context is what tells you if it's being used in a negative or a positive or a neutral way.
Well, we see that with SSC, right? Safe. Oh, nothing can be done in BDSM that's safe. Shut the fuck up. No one would show up again. No one would be in my audience. The police would be knocking on my door if BDSM always ended poorly, right?
Yes.
Even 50% of the time. You wouldn't go on a roller coaster that half the time falls off the tracks. I'd say you wouldn't go for a plane ride, but right now I really don't know where that's heading. Uh, you know, statistically it's not so safe anymore. It's still safe, but it's starting to get there. Also, when we
Yeah.
say something is safe, I think this gets misconstrued a lot because this is the next one. Because it's safe with the safe thing. Safe doesn't mean it doesn't have risk or it isn't dangerous. Safe just means getting through it,
Yeah.
thoughtfully
Well,
getting through it.
and again, yet another set of words that without additional conversation context behind them go very differently because I was always taught the safe part of SSC is that you've put all of the safety precautions in place you possibly can. You have your safety shears, you have your safe works. You're doing it as safely as can possibly be done.
That's good too. I've heard it that way too. We don't want to run from safe. Certainly never want to run from safe. Then you have sane. Oh, insane is such a judgment thing, but that's not sane. It always comes back to that, right? Everyone's picking on insanity and insane. And yes, I understand that that has been misused, but sane is to be done with care. And remember, this came off a package of fireworks, ladies and gentlemen. That's where it comes from. Handle these safe and sane. Safety in mind, sane with care. And consensual, if you got to argue about that, it's a problem. But we are running out of time, so let's do some comments, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Rachel was the last one. Little sub. You can come onto our YouTube. I was trying to, I held up the sign. You can come on the YouTube. We will be having a 15-minute closing after the show moment. So anyone who wants to join us, come to the YouTube channel, and you could even be part of it. We can put it out as a comment, the link. I've done that before, and it'll be in the comments screen. I am so in the lifestyle, but my partner is so vanilla, but indulges me just enough, but would like to get him more involved without topping any
Tips.
Cheetos. Tips.
Any tips, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any tips? Have them ask them what they're curious about. I would say, like, show them some things and ask them what they like. Because if they're engaging with you, they might be liking certain things, and maybe through more education, more understanding, it can get more interesting for them. Go for it.
I was going to say, I can have a long conversation on that one myself as well, but I'd rather do that in like the after. So come on over to YouTube and we can have more discussion on that maybe afterwards.
Mason asked, how do you vet a dungeon or a group? You don't vet a dungeon. And I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm trying to be thorough with this, but you don't vet a dungeon. You're only going to be able to get feedback about the dungeon. It's not like we have, what was that thing where you rated places? I forgot it now. It was a while.
Yelp?
Yelp. Yeah, we don't have a Kink Yelp. So it's going to be a lot of word of mouth, and it's not the dungeon you want to be worried about. It's the people running the dungeon or the people hosting nights, because most dungeons do have nights where other people come in, and they will get blamed for the one group that did something will fall on the dungeon, and maybe that's rightfully so a little bit, if especially if it's a reoccurring problem. But if you went to one night and you didn't know it was these people hosting it, and now you talk bad about the dungeon, that's also your problem. So it's a lot of gossip. Groups too, same thing. They're going to clam up and hide themselves. Vetting is very intense, and I think we throw out the word vetting and especially assume it has to be submitted to way too frequently. You got to step back and watch, look for the red flags, talk to people. Trust me, if they're up to no good, people will be more than happy in the community to tell you about that. But I mean, there's no perfect system here. Background checks, you can't really background check from the outside if they're running an event, right? Can't
Yeah.
background check an entire group. And background checks, again, ladies and gentlemen, require consent, whether you like it or not.
The only real tip I can add to that is look at any of their rules or policies or their vetting process. Look at how those work. Look at how open they are with explaining some of those processes and policies and how they handle any kind of consent violation issues and stuff. And just look at that really critically and kind of think through, does that meet your standard or not? That's kind of really all you can start with. And then, like you said, you kind of just have to listen for the whispers in the whisper network.
And understand that looking at someone's activity feed says so much about people. So much. Activity feeds really show who they are, and FetLife doesn't put a limit. You can go pretty back on someone's personal activity feed. It's only the most recent that has a limit. The other activity feed for a person, when you're looking into them, it goes back years if you're patient enough. And you'll see who they really are. And sometimes you see they change as a person, but also that change could just be they're held accountable. So always be wary that it was always there in their past. Demi says, new switch coming from subbing. How do you touch it, partner, when you've been ingrained not to during the scene? That's negotiation. how do you not touch, I think. How do you touch? Demi, can you resubmit that to us on the YouTube channel? And we'll cover it over here on
Yep.
YouTube at the end of the show because I need a little more clarity on that to really go further. And we have 10 minutes now, so I want to get everyone's comments in before we go. Thanks. That's a logical start. I thought I have, but maybe I'll use a different way. There's always good ways to do something differently, and you never stop. If you hit a wall, go around the wall. Never try to go through the wall. See if there's a way to go around it. Anything to add on to any of that before we switch over to our YouTube?
So, I can go in depth in that one a good bit, but in my experience, somebody who wants to top needs to have interest in it. You can't put the kinky spark in someone who just doesn't have the interest. Also, I have had the experience of trying to, quote, convert a vanilla partner. And I was thinking top. If anything, they were likely to be bottom, and it wasn't really something they were into. So, there's a lot of ways to go about it, but to some extent, you got to make sure it's something they want, especially if they're going to top, because they need to have the energy to look and educate how to get these skills that you would want in a topping partner.
I really like the term kinky cosplay to cover vanilla fantasy seekers that make pickup play dangerous at times. So you're getting some kudos there, Alice.
I think it's one of the best terms we've come out with in a while.
And then Rachel goes on to say, when they do, like you guys mentioned, of watching videos and then doing what they saw with no knowledge or experience, just because someone is a submissive doesn't mean they're submissive to any dom. Both points very true. A lot of people go to like PH, if you know what that stands for, adult entertainment. I'll put it at for the rest of you, and they think that's a how-to, forgetting that those are scene cuts, and a lot of times a lot happens between all that stuff, and that's a very dangerous environment a lot of times too. You should all remember that when you're watching very violent things. They are made to make that last scene cut. Oh, I completely consented to this before they get a paycheck. So
Yeah.
be careful even what you support. Learn who you're supporting, what sites you're supporting, and look it up. And the back part of that, just because someone is submissive doesn't mean they're submissive to any dom. That's absolutely true. And just because someone's a brat doesn't mean they get to brat to anyone in the community. There's this one person, and I don't dislike this person. They're a nice human being, but they keep calling themselves the brat of the community. No, you're not. And it's that awkward moment. Rob, don't say anything. Rob, don't say anything. Let him have it. Let him have it. You don't have to say it. You don't have to correct it, Rob. I'm having that inner struggle. I just want to jump on there and be like, no, there's no community brat, because the community will never agree on one person being its brat. There's going to be someone who doesn't want to be bratted at by you because some people don't like brats. Shaw said, breathe. All right, final notes, final thoughts, final takeaways.
I mean, I don't really have many outside of what we said. Submission is earned through informed consent and negotiation. I mean, pretty full stop to me.
I want to thank everyone who came here tonight and watched this and gave their feedback. There's never going to be 100% right way that everyone's going to like. And as an educator, you have to, for me, my belief is I have to stay in between it all and teach it so everyone can use it. And the goal is to empower consent and show red flags and get people to make less mistakes in the lifestyle. So that's all I got for you. A is here and giving out chocolate bars. Ooh, thank you, A. And we're going to continue the conversation here on YouTube. I don't see any other things to say, and I hate when we just try to fill every minute for the hour. So I think me and Alice are going to say goodbye, and then we'll stay on for an extra 15 minutes at least on the YouTube channel. So if you want to join us, once again, it's KinkEducator on YouTube, and we can even have people come on. I know that little sub Shelly wanted to come on. You're free to join us over on the other side. I am going to put out the link as soon as I can figure out. There it is. So we're putting out the link right now. So anyone who's on YouTube can actually join us. You will have to download nothing. StreamYard's pretty easy. All you need is a browser, and it works on Safari on your iPhones. I don't know about Android, but one of them will work.
Well, and another thing I want to put before people join on the link, this is being recorded to be posted on YouTube. So when you come in, it'll give you a chance to decide if you want your camera on or not. If you do not want your face on YouTube for the entirety of the internet, make sure you turn your camera off.
And while we're doing the warning now, because I was going to do it in the other end when you guys joined us, understand we're a year or two off of being able to take your picture and find you across the internet and everything and anything, including your voice. So make that decision informed. Again, informed consent. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay kinky, stay knowledgeable, keep seeking to learn more about the thing you love, and it'll always reward you back. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us for this pet edition, Power Exchange Together. And I felt like together we came up with some great stuff this evening. Thank you all for taking part in it. We'll see you on YouTube. The rest of you will see you probably in August for the next pet. All right. So they're out of here. It's just us. We'll see if anyone comes on up. I thought we did pretty good controlling all of this stuff. I'm glad no one brought up trad wives. I'm so glad to have 5 minutes off.
I was wondering. You mentioned it for a second. I'm like, oh, don't go down that rabbit hole right now.
It's one of those. I think I've said everything I have to say, and I'll just refer to videos on it. I would be damned if I make a playlist on it, because now it's just clickbait, and I see a lot of people are sending me things, and I'm like, I'm not touching that because they just want this. They want the attention now.
Yeah. We're getting the folks joining over from TikTok now, and we got some good questions. So I'm going to jump to those because I'd rather talk about that than that whole clickbait issue. So we have Debbie Trading. I'm new to switching after almost a decade of subbing. During kink scenes, I was told as a sub not to touch my dom. It's just been ingrained in me. How do I start feeling comfortable touching my bottom? I'm assuming during scenes.
That's a personal thing. As a switch, you have to learn how to compartmentalize and know, because especially if you're a switch in polyamory, you're going to have different rules for different people. I suggest keeping lists, like making a play profile. And right now, this is free. The BDSM survey, if you go to Kink for All, KINK4ALL.site, it's there as one of the things. You can also find this as on Are You One of Us? That's the letter R, the letter U, the number 1 of OS us US .site. Or is that space? I think that's .space. That's our space. But yeah, those are the simple ways to do it. That you got to work that on your own. There's no advice. You just have to realize who you're playing with.
So I do have one little advice to try and in your brain flip your mental switch around. I'm in my top space. I'm in my bottom space as a switch. I do suggest, depending on it, know yourself. If you're somebody who kind of likes to kind of have a fit for a scene or something, like maybe find an article of clothing or something that you use always when you're in your topping mode, and it will kind of help get you into that mind. Almost create two very different rituals for, I'm getting ready to do a scene as a top and I'm getting ready to do a scene as a bottom. It might help to kind of get that mental switch going in the right direction.
Oops. Dropping stuff. I agree. I'm actually trying to bring up, because one of them's it's a .site and the other's .space. So I'm going to show you guys. The Free for All, Kink for All, sorry. Kink for All is .site. It's always been a .site. But when I created the Are You One of Us, I actually wanted it to be our space. I wanted it to be a space, not a site. So this is where it brings you, and it gets you to the comic books that I create, and there's our sign.
We're not We're not seeing your screen. We're seeing the P.E.T and the Mr. Anderson logos.
It's because I have to remove this manually. I finally figured there.
Oh.
It's annoying, but we'll make do as always. We'll make do. So yeah, here it is. So this is the Are You One of Us? It actually takes you to my Creators of Written Sins, which is the comic book site, but it gives you all the links at the bottom. This is the dot space. It is for all of us. It's calling the people who are considered weird and geeky and kinky. It's the call to home. Has the eBay shop, my personal page. It's got the BDSM survey, which we're giving out this season, this summer season. And then you have, of course, our Kink for All site, and it's right there, right? Consent period, free PDF tools for all. So that's what you got. I agree so much. I'm so tired of these men just sending me messages to dom me when I'm just trying to learn more about kinks. That's a FetLife thing. Me and Alice tore into FetLife one night. We even invited the owners. I don't know if they ever saw it. We posted it. I hope they watch it. I hope they understand it, but it kind of sucks that they don't.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone in that, which is very unfortunate. Because, ugh.
Absolutely. And then Rachel said, with switch aspect, energy comes into play a lot. Some people pull a dominant aspect from me, and some pull a submissive. It's hard to force that without it feeling ingenuine. Ingenuine? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, ingenuine/fake during a scene.
I thought it was ingenuous, but that's just a neurodivergent moment. But yeah, no, it's true. You do want it to feel natural. And that's why I said it's compartmentalized. It's definitely about yourself and how you can kind of switch back and forth between the two.
Well, and we're going on a whole switching discussion. It's not uncommon to not be able to switch in a night.
Yeah.
It's very common. I'm going to this event or this party, I'm going as top headspace, or, and not being able to flip to bottom, or only being able to switch one direction in the same night. Like, I can only go from dominant to submissive and not the other way around. So it's trial and error to figure out what works for you personally.
We didn't have anyone try to join us. I want to thank you all for being part of this. The pet program has been great. The program that we have with Cool Kinks of Our Lives. It's a cool event. We're just taking a little hiatus during the summer, mostly because I think people, the end of July seems to pick up for a lot of people. And I can't even believe this. It's July 9th now, but we're already, the 16th next week? Like, July is going to fly by us. I can't even believe we're 9 days in right now. We've got all of 1, 2, 3 weeks left of July, and it feels like we just started. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
I definitely do.
we might have a cool on the 30th. We'll have to check back and see. But the 16th, we're definitely going to take off, and we're going to take off the 23rd. Maybe I'll do something, but I mean, I'll still do lives. I just don't want anything organized right now. Because like summer, middle of July, you kind of get really busy. August seems to be where everyone gets kind of relaxed and starts thinking about the fall a little bit more. But July, I feel like people do a lot more engagement with each other and going out. In August, everyone's just over the summer. And you get the kids in Florida. Our kids go back to school really early. Our kids are slated to go back on like the 11th or 12th. Plus,
Of
hurricanes
August?
for me. Yeah.
Oh,
Crazy,
God.
crazy
Oh,
as that sounds. Because it used to be for me in New York, we would go back right after Labor Day. So,
yeah.
like that following Monday or Tuesday, it was the Tuesday right after Labor Day, you'd go back to school.
Yeah. It's the same still up here.
And I don't get it down here why they do it this way, because August is certainly one of the hottest months of the entire year. Why would you put your kids back in August? But it also has to do with the fact that I think they want the kids sorted when our busy season begins, and our busy season begins in September. because we become a vacation destination again as things are getting cooler up in the north.
Hmm. Yeah, I always thought it was a little weird that they started school so early.
Yeah, I don't agree, but it is what it is. Thanks. It was mostly for pickup play at like conventions and parties. I don't tend to have this problem with my partner, and I'm like taking care of caressing a spot I just did impact on in between hits. I think that's a nice way to keep someone in because you, I don't understand this, but most whack, whack, whack. Oh, look at all they took. And they come out looking dazed, not in subspace, like they just got jumped. And a lot of people, like, they're like, oh, that was a great experience. I never want to play with that person again. Sure, look, I got bruises, but my God, I think I should call the police on them. I think they beat me up.
So um I always referred to that as whether or not a top has flow. Um, and with like real life kink friends of mine, we'll have conversations, and a lot of it is whether or not the top. Sometimes we'll talk about whether or not they had good flow. In that meaning, like you go through a moment of like a few hits, and then either you shift or you do something else, and it there's this whole cycle and flow to it, right? Because maybe sometimes there's times to just wail on them repeatedly, never stopping with an implement, but usually you want a nice flow.
Well, that'd be more of a tolerance scene where you're trying to help someone learn how tolerant they are, and they'll call yellow when they feel like you hit in the warning track, the baseball
Yeah.
metaphor that's almost out of the park. Uh, and I'd also say, in this kind of Layla, I hope I'm saying that right. Can a dominant need nurturing? Of course, they're human beings.
Oh, yeah.
They never stop being human. Can a submissive offer it without taking back control? Nurturing isn't about control; it's about support, and we should be supporting each other. And it's this thing. A lot of dominants don't get enough praise by their submissives, but most dominants agree the biggest moment of aftercare that we enjoy, and we don't talk about it a lot because most people want aftercare. If you're submissive, generally will want you to hold them and you love it. They might want 5 minutes to just breathe, let their skin become skin again, and let the raised parts begin to heal before they cuddle with you again. But like that's the moment when our submissives come into our arms. That's nurturing for a lot of us dominants
Hmm.
because they came back. They at least at this moment, as far as we know, they're cuddling with us, so they're not mad at us. We did something well because they're back in our arms. And then later you have to, and this is another thing a lot of people don't do. Oh, I don't really ask about it. I always ask how the scene was. What I don't ask now, 2 years in, did you feel like I overstepped anything? Was anything wrong? I let them bring it up. I just ask, what did you think? And I call it the afterplay report, the APR.
I like that term. But no, I that's been my experience that a lot of doms and tops, they want the cuddling after. That is their check-in that like, yes, they were okay with everything I did. Even a lot of times I've had a couple of tops that'll specifically ask, was everything okay? And they are wanting to hear the truth. They want you to tell them the truth, but they are looking to kind of have you say, yes, everything was okay. I enjoyed it, especially if they've ever had a partner who's ever shamed them for their kinky interests or things they're into. They need that reassurance too. They want that energy back via cuddles or whatnot. So yeah, the nurturing definitely goes both ways. It just might look a little different, and you may not always actually catch that you are nurturing them in a way they need, because sometimes it's very subtle.
And I can't stress this enough. When we're putting you in pain, pain doesn't look like, ooh, this is happy pain. On a body, it generally looks like someone's in pain. The happy fills in after the couple strikes, and that's why we stop to let that endorphin rush take over. We were talking about this today, how some people didn't realize that subspace was a real thing. And Rachel says, I wish there was more Dom table talks for dominance. We just spoke about that in a munch I attended. There's a sub and switch tables, but Doms need one too. I think we should all be speaking at the same table. I think that's the bigger problem. We separate everyone out. Oh, this is just switches. Oh, just switches talking. But they're never going to hear from the Dom and just sub parts, are they? Oh, just subs. Well, what are they going to learn from each other? We have to stop segregating ourselves. We're already a niche market. Why are we dumbing down? Well, you can only be a femme presenting, submissive, that likes to be pet play, and maybe a little. You're going to get four people. But if
Well,
you. Go ahead.
and like in areas where I am that are more rural, you literally can't. We like to that same thing. Why separate? There's places where you literally can't. You're gonna have three people show up once you get too niche. And like even where I am, if we just did Dom sub switch, we'd have group togethers with like 5 people.
And I'd even say that sometimes when we separate ourselves, I don't want to be around men. They're just uncomfortable. Well, maybe if we brought men into the room and held them accountable and they saw how to behave, they would spread that knowledge. But instead, ostracizing them, they don't learn anything from.
Yeah. Well, and I want to answer the comment you have highlighted from Demi. Some groups will have focused munches where it's the switches munch or the pet players and stuff. You tend to find that more commonly in larger areas, so more densely populated, like major cities and stuff, that just they actually have the numbers to support that separating. But it constantly comes up because for 2 reasons. Well, Doms will feel more comfortable talking about Domly things around just other Doms. Again, at surface value, the idea sounds great, but I've actually had a conversation with a Dom who had that same mentality of wanting like a submissive support munch and a dominant support munch. And then they happen to just be driving myself, their submissive, and another good friend of mine who is a switch, but often submits as well. And they just drove and listened to the 3 subby type people in the car chat. And they're like, I learned more about how to play with a submissive from just eavesdropping on your conversation. Like with permission, we knew he was, but just eavesdropping on your conversation than I probably have at any point up till now with most dominants. And I'm like, it's why we need to talk about these things together in a group. There's a lot to learn from each other.
And it also goes back to the mentality of dominants need to know how an implement feels. No, because they're never going to understand it. What they need to do is ask a submissive how it feels to them, especially their own submissives. We have 3 minutes, so let's wrap this up really strong. Rachel said that's very true. A table for all would be good too. I do want to say sometimes pet players and age players they separate out because they're so shamed in our community, and that goes against our community, not against them. They need a safe place to meet. I do want to put that out there. Rachel says, no, 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 separated during munches, Demi. I meant there's a lot of events geared towards subs talking together about the lifestyle, and that's not really for Doms to come together to talk. Because Doms should be talking to submissives, and I would think me and Alice's point of view, because they'll learn more than that just than another Domly Dom who's going to be like, no, don't take her shit, beat her.
Well, I agree with you, but I also feel some of it is Dom seeking out mentorship is a bit more rare than submissives doing it. Like there's this whole, especially for newer people, there's this whole ego thing about being a dominant that like I genuinely don't understand, but I see it, that like prevents them from seeking advice on their own. It's weird.
It's called stupidity. Last comment of the day. Thank you so much. That helps so much. Learning that they need just as much nurture, but just in a different way. Exactly. We're all humans. We're not plastic pieces. We're playing together, not against each other. So, any final thoughts tonight, Alice?
I think with the whole conversation, it comes down to communicate, discuss, ask questions, negotiate. Like, just keep talking. Like, you just talk about it and negotiate everything, including aftercare.
All the care. Negotiate all the care. Thank you all for being part of this tonight. It's been my pleasure to be with you for the last 90 minutes. I look forward to seeing you all. Feel free to follow me on the FetLife under KinkEducator. Where can they follow you, Alice?
I take following on my FetLife as well, which is Wandering Alice. Keep it simple.
Go. Thank you all for the time. We will be back definitely in August with the next pet. Until then, discuss, communicate, and watch the channel and get your education as we're in summer 101 for the BDSM. Thank you all. Make sure to hit that site. That's it. Thank you all, including Alice, for helping me bring this information to you.